Hi, welcome to the Officially Unofficial Geek channel, where today we are going to talk about a book that made me want to search on Google the following question: Is there a statute of limitations in France for murder? The answer to that question, the answer to that question is yes, there's a statute of limitations for murder in France. I am talking about The Bombshell. It's a new release by Darrow Farr. I got it from the Book of the Month Club. And so let me just kind of read to you a little bit about what it's about first. But Book of the Month Club, Darrow Farr, The Bombshell. Beautiful, beautiful design. The the book sleeve, not designed very well in practicality, but in imagery, very pretty. For some reason, I like the combination of yellow and pink. Some reason, I also like the combination of green and pink. Found that out when watching Wicked. Um, yeah, it was a surprise for me. But anyways, this is best. It's best talked about by actually telling you what the synopsis of the story is first. Um, so this is basically what you saw if you were considering getting this book. Okay, this is the blurb. This is the official blurb. Corsica, 1993. As a sun drenched Mediterranean summer heads into full swing, beautiful and brash 17-year-old Servine Agumon is counting down the days until graduation, dreaming of stardom while smoking cigarettes and seducing boys in her class to pass the time. The pampered French American daughter of a politician, Servine knows she's destined for bigger things. That is, until one night, Servine is snatched off her bike by a militant trio fighting for Corsican independence and held for a large ransom. When the men fumble negotiating her release, the four become unlikely housemates deep in the island's remote interior. Eager to gain the upper hand, Servine sets out to charm her captors, and soon the handsome intellectual leader Bruno, the gentle university student Titu, and even the gruff, unflappable Petru, grow to enjoy the company of their headstrong hostage. Let me just go ahead and it gets that's one of the problems about the blurb. First off, we're gonna talk about a few things here. The blurb gives away a lot. Okay, that's a good deal of the book. The full like that's the good deal of the plot to the book. So there's still two more paragraphs to this thing, but I'm gonna try to keep this as spoiler light as possible. Um, Obviously, like that moment there, that gives you a little bit of an insight into what the book is about. A little too much of an insight into what the book is about. And I imagine it's probably to try and shore up um, the purchase for someone looking for kind of an alternate type of romance novel, um, which is what this is. It's something. It's a book. It's bound. It has a cover. It's like some books, like especially hardcovers, it has a dust jacket that, like I said, was poorly designed and function, but not beauty. Beauty, I very much love this cover. Um, but the dust jacket was just too oversized for the book. It kept on getting in the way. And whenever I read the book, I had to remove the dust jacket because it annoyed my senses. Um, so how do I get into this without giving too much away? So basically, what you got there was probably enough that we could go on. One of the things I sometimes talk about in my comic book and my that I've talked about in the past in my comic book reviews and my collected edition reviews is that tropes are tropes for a reason. So to just dismiss something because of a trope, I feel like is being overly critical. Tropes are tropes for a reason, and the thing that they're tropes because they work, and they are time capsule items that just can't, not necessarily time capsule items. How do I want to put this? They are things that when used, they are kind of thematic. They have a theme to them. And the point of what you're supposed to do with that kind of exaggerated theme that a trope is you have to go ahead and you have to be like, okay, what makes this different? What makes this stand out? When all is said and done, what is going to make this interesting to a reader? And, it's what do you pile on top of that base of the trope? And what you're hoping is that you don't become too predictable, is a word we can use. Honestly, a lot of this book was very predictable. And thinking about it, hindsight being 2020, I probably should have assumed that about the book based on the clues that you get involving the theme, right from get go. When it comes right down to it, this book is a a love story. And saying that here, when I already read what I have to you about the blurb, it seems a little odd. Okay, so let's try to I'm trying to find a way to break this down for you, like I said, being as spoiler free as possible. Okay? Basically what happens is you have this girl, she's kidnapped, right? So she's kidnapped and she's brought to this cottage. And at first it's like a typical kidnapping. She's taken, she's held for ransom, she's kept in a large closet and fed, and she's allowed to shower. She's treated pretty humanely, with the exception of being locked in a dark closet most of the time, but she's fed and she's fed well. So, the people that are having her held captive, she's kind of confused about this. It's not really going down the way it normally would. And then she gets to find out from them exactly what's going on. And her father is a politician in office, but the position that he's in, more or less, is more or less a one of power and prestige and wealth, yes, but not necessarily. He's not the head honcho here, right? So when demands are made for Servine's release that involve money he has, money he fulfilled, the parents fulfilled the money, the mom and the dad, they both fulfilled the cash option, but the other part of the release was the release of a political prisoner, which they couldn't make that decision. That decision lied with somebody higher than Servine's father, and Servine's you know colleague, the guy in charge, could not would not dare make that decision. Um, so when they realized that they didn't have the heart to kill her, she just started kind of living with them to the point where, and she's interacting with them, and there's one particular character that she falls in love with, and in the course of doing that, her own values and views are challenged. Okay, so on the surface, that story could have worked. And my major issue with it is that if you've produced a story where the main character is definitely rattled by what she finds out, she's definitely changed and enriched as a character. That's what we call a character arc, a progression of the character. The problem is, by the end of this book, I did not see a theoretical change in Servine. Um, there is a large element of who she was in the beginning is still who she is 20 years later in book time. Um, so, not much of a character arc there. But within that character arc, you have some very predictable things that happen to Servine in the course of her love story and in the course of her interaction with this very disorganized um, militia group of three men. And if it wasn't for the fact that the men were interesting, the men in the disorganized group were interesting and had interesting character development, I probably would have DNF'd this book because I just could not like the main character. And I wanted to like the main character, but she just did not grab me. It was really like like she just was like she woke up one day and was like, I think I'll join a group of militants because their leader is cute. And it kept being like that. And she kept on like doing things and escalating because she wanted to prove herself to this man. And yeah, I mean, she falls in love with, they have a relationship, and it, and of course I was sitting there and I was like, I swear to God, I'm going to keep with this book, but like, because I've come too far. By the time I realized that I might want to not finish this book, it was like I'd gone too far. Okay. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? I might as well see this through to the end. And I remember talking to my partner, my boyfriend, about it and saying, like, this all hinges on how this author ends this book, on whether it's successful at all or not for me. If you are looking for a predictable love story set in the backdrop of people fighting for their independence in the 90s in Europe, um, you might like this book. Give it a shot, um, because It maybe. I mean, maybe some of the reasons that I don't like it would be some of the reasons you would like it. Is basically what I'm saying here, because just because I didn't like it, there might be reasons why you would like it, you know? And I'm trying to be positive here, but it's just like I remember sitting there and going through this book and just being like, I swear to God, I swear to God, when there's like a time jump in there, right? And it's like, I swear to God, if this happens in that time jump, and I specifically mentioned something to my boyfriend, I'm not going to tell you what it is, then this is going to be I said if this happens, this one particular thing happens, this will be the most predictable book that I have read in a long time, and now I am officially hate reading it, because hate reading it is a strong word. I gave it on my I've been purposely not bringing my ratings on Storygraph into these proceedings here, okay? But I'm gonna say that I rated it out of 5 at 2.75 stars. Now, why did I give it that? Because the militia gentlemen were very interesting characters, and that kept me going. The backdrop of the fight for independence was very appealing and interesting, and that kept me going. If this was based solely on me liking the main character, this would have ended with me DNFing this book. And I would have been reporting that I DNF'd it. But because of the backdrop and everything else that's going on, in juxtaposition with the love story, I kept going. I mean, I finished it, but it wasn't necessarily the best thing. So, okay. So, anyways, I'm sitting there and I'm like at a certain point, and I've paused my progress, right? And I'm like, if this happens before the end of the book, this, and I specifically stated something that could happen in the plot, then this will be the most predictable book that I have read in a long time. And I'm going to tell you right now, it happened. It happened. And because I don't want to tell you what happened, because it's a major spoiler, basically everything throughout. And I realized that I had done these talks with myself while reading this, and just sitting there and being like, oh, this is going to happen next, and then it happened, and then this is going to happen after that, and then it happened, and then this is going to happen, and then it happened, and this is going to happen, and then it happened. That was me throughout this whole process. So if you like the idea of a headstrong um, young woman join a militant group fighting for independence and falling in love while doing it, and maybe you'll like this book, except for the fact that you have to accept right now that you might not like the main character. What some may have thought was a glamorous character, a tour de force, I found to be an arrogant asshole. If that was the intention of the author, I would say they succeeded, but it probably wasn't what I wanted to read at that moment. Oh well. But I'm not going to leave you guys with this any longer. If what I said and I don't like is something that appeals to you, check out the Bombshell. Even if the things that I said that I liked appeal to you, check out the Bombshell. But know that there's a possibility you might not like the main character. Well, maybe you do. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me this time. Until next time, this is the Officially Unofficial Geek channel. This is the book report, and I'll be seeing ya. Bye.